Okay, so I am Phillip Roundtree, founder and CEO of Quadefy LLC, which is an organization that promotes wellness across the board. So we're talking about physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual wellness. And so one of the aspects of my business that I come out and speak about the importance of mental and emotional well-being. Mm-hmm. And so hence the reason why I'm here at the Active Minds Conference to present on Black Mental Health Matters, because it is such a taboo and overly stigmatized topic within the Black community. And so I just thought it was important to have this conversation with the people here.
Tell me about that, because I am obviously a middle-aged white woman. So I know about the stigma in general, but I do not know about the stigma within the Black community. So educate me.
So I think it's the overall stigma of mental health is just universal. We're not supposed to talk, as a society, we're not supposed to talk about it. Your troubles are your troubles. You're supposed to deal with it. You're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to be resilient. You're supposed to be able to overcome and pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Me being a man, that's intensified. And then when we come and add me being a Black man, it's to the point where at times it's just unbearable. It's unbearable. When I say unbearable, I mean in the Black community, for fair reason, we just don't have these discussions. We're talking about historical trauma that has happened to us since slavery. And so we fast forward where we've had to be resilient. We had to hide our emotions in order to cope with what was happening to us. And so again, we go from slavery through the civil rights and even up until now with what's happening in society with the social injustices and what have you. And so, again, my role is to try and have that conversation with people that look like me, because representation matters. And I just, in preparation for this, going over my lengthy PowerPoint that'll be happening, I was reminded of just the barriers to why it is such a stigmatized topic. Mm-hmm. And so, when we look at, our Afrocentric values, as a culture, we're very religious. And so, as most people, you give your troubles to God. You pray. And I see it a lot, especially on social media. Listen, I tell people, prayer is a wonderful coping strategy, but also God made doctors and prescription medication to assist you with this. And so we put all our effort, we had to put our heart and soul into the church, because that was the one environment that we had, especially when we talk about going through slavery, where it was just us, our time, and it helped us during intense struggles. And so that's just one of the barriers. Then we talk about just the medical mistrust that exists. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Tuskegee experiment and what have you, where for 40 years, Black men were injected with syphilis to see how it affected them. Hence the reason why we now have informed consent when we go to the doctors or what have you. So, and again, it's a lot of issues, a lot of barriers as to why it's such a stigmatized topic in our community.
So what reaction are you getting within your family, within your inner circle, and maybe even within your larger world for doing what you're doing?
It's been positive. It's been nothing but positive feedback. This is something I've been dealing with, being diagnosed with depression and anxiety for some years now. They say it takes 10 years for you to finally get some assistance. I'm sure that number is even higher for African Americans, because we know that we're only getting treatment at 1/4 of the rate of any other ethnic group. And so, once I finally started talking about what's happening with me, it's been good. My mom, she's open. She's been a therapist for a while, a drug and alcohol therapist. So again, that co-occurring disorders that she's been dealing with, working in that population for as long as she did. So that's been fine. I mean, my circle of friends, listen, it's like any circle of friends where, some people understand it, they laud you for it, and then some just, they don't understand. They're not in a place to understand. I don't begrudge them for it. And then just in overall, listen, I wouldn't be doing this and have a business and what have you if people didn't see the need for it. So yeah, it's just the response has been good.
So does that make you wonder if the stigma is as large and pervasive as you assume it to be? If when you come out, as you know, and say this is my problem too, and we need to talk about it, people respond well? Is that, I wonder how much self-stigma there is sometimes.
Yeah. It definitely is a self-stigma. No, I think the stigma may actually even be larger. And when I say the stigma is larger, even just outside our community and individuals that deal with our community. So I'm a therapist in my day-to-day. And so just the lack of understanding with regards to mental health within the Black community, people just don't understand. And so I look at that as a stigma. You know, again, even when I'm dealing with families, it's not that, you know, Johnny is bad and incorrigible. No, if, you know, when we look at the research and we look at what the symptoms are for Black men and Black boys, we express ourselves a lot of times, our depression and anxiety, through anger and rage. But if you're not aware of that, then you won't know. And so some people aren't just willing to learn. Again, I'm not, you know, I can't really speak because I haven't met everybody, so I can't really say about, you know, whether the stigma is less, but I you know, I still see it there. I still see the pushback that I get when I reach out. Again, is it because, you know, it's mental health, or is it because it's me talking about, you know, Black mental health, you know, in the different arenas that I try to reach out to? You know, don't know, but, you know, the stigma is definitely still there.
So this particular, you know, forum that we're at now, you're obviously talking to primarily, there's some diversity here, but primarily young white people. Mm-hmm. What's the takeaway message you have for them? For us, I guess for all of us. I'm white too, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's something I've been thinking about since I've been at the conference. You know, when we look at, you know, not only the conference and the demographics here at the conference, but when we look at, you know, just the profession. You know, when we look at the profession, it's predominantly young white women who are, you know,
therapists, you mean?
Well, just in general, just those who are working in the profession.
Okay.
And so those who attend the conferences and things like that, it is coming from this perspective. As far as takeaways, I think it's just a matter of just being culturally competent. I've been asked, you know, by multiple people here, you know, what can I do to engage minorities, to have them join or, you know, look at our organization. And, you know, I felt like I felt like the Black spokesperson for, you know, like from the Black delegation. And so, you know, my takeaway, it was just like, listen, you know, we're really no different. You know, and when we look at ourselves, you know, at a basic level, we all have the same needs. We all have the same desires. We want to be understood. You know, we want to be, you know, somebody to care about what's happening with us. And so, you know, my recommendation for them was to, listen, instead of saying, hey, can you come to our meeting, go to I'm trying to think of an organization. Go to a multicultural organizations meeting. You know, show up,
right.
Be present, ask questions, show that you care. Mm-hmm. There's really no difference as far as, you know, what's being experienced. You know, it's just we just ask, you know, and just for everybody, we just need to empathize more. You know, it's because a lot of our experiences are similar. We just have to be open to it. We can't, you know, believe what the media says. We can't believe, you know, 100% what's, you know, even what we see, you know, because there's so much more to a story. So, you know, if that answers the question.
It does. And I have to point out you're wearing your Colin Kaepernick shirt. So I assume this is part of your mission in terms of, you know, pointing out some of the things that are being perhaps more harshly evaluated and you know, taken in than they would be if someone else had done it. You know, if, you know, Brett Favre, or, you know, had his knee down, would it be the same reaction?
Exactly. You know, when we look at...
I don't know why I said Brett Favre instead of Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry, Aaron, honey, I love you.
Yeah, it's, you know, the reason I was conflicted as to whether I was going to wear this shirt or not today. It was either this or Mike Tyson. You know, and it was just, that opens up a whole nother can of worms. But it was just like...
I love the way you pick between two political things. It's not like, or my gray shirt.
Yeah, because where I am now is I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm at the point where, and I think that's helped me tremendously. I've been caught up in my head for so many years where it's just like, I don't care. You're either going to receive me, you're either going to look inside, you're going to have that dialogue, that conversation. That's the reason why I do wear it, because it can start conversations. Or you're not. You know, either way, it's fine with me. And it took me a long time to get to that point. But my purpose in wearing it today was, you know, black people are more likely to be victims of violent crimes than any other ethnic group. You know, that impacts us. When I'm driving, my experiences, and hopefully you'll be at my session, you know, my experience with the police has been different, you know, and that's impacted how I relate to the world. And so when I'm driving, I'm here in DC, and I'm driving down the street, and I see a cop car, it's more, it's not even about you're just going to, I hope I don't die today. You know, it's bigger than that. It's the PTSD-like symptoms that I'm having. It's my heart is racing, my, you know, palpitations, I'm sweating. You know, I'm having these real-life symptoms that others may not have to. Again, we're not saying all, but, you know, it's just something that's fact. You know, it's something that's fact. So hence the reason why, you know, I wear this show, because it's just so impactful. If we worry about, you know, what's happening and the well-being and the wellness of others, we'll be better off for it.
So as long as we're talking about your clothes, let's talk about yesterday, because that was the first thing I noticed about you. You walked into the session with a huge smile on your face and a shirt that said, "This is what depression looks like."
Yeah.
And I would say incongruity, except that I know that, you know, A, we hide a lot behind a smile, and B, we also have happy times,
exactly.
You know, so
exactly.
I loved that. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, you know, that was something that I created, and it's, can I plug it? I don't know if I can plug it.
Go for it.
So my website is www.quadefy, Q-U-A-D as in dog, E-F-Y, LLC.net. And you can send in, you know, go to the About Me section, the contact, and fill it out if you're interested in the shirt. It's a nice shirt. It's on the website.
It's awesome.
But it was just like, I do this thing where when I'm speaking, first thing I say is, when you see me, when you look at me, what do you see? And a lot of times I get the physical attributes. I get or if I'm wearing this shirt, it's like, you're for the cause, you know, you're for the culture.
And you have a very unique look.
This
is radio, so you describe yourself.
Okay, so I am 6 foot. I am 225 pounds. I'm a power lifter, bodybuilder. So I have a little bit of muscles. I have a big beard, an infectious smile, and I'm dark skinned, because that does play a part in it too. And so when people look at me, they talk about the physical characteristics, or they'll see this, they'll see the Colin Kaepernick shirt, and they say, I'm for the cause, I'm for the people. And so, but rarely what I get is, you look like somebody that lives with depression, anxiety. You look like somebody that was suicidal for 15 years of your life, every day, 5 or 6 times a day. And so when I say that, that's when the room gets quiet. It's just like, and I'm sure that's going to happen today, even though I had the shirt on yesterday, but people aren't going to make that connection. Right. And so it just means a lot to me, because, again, especially how I look, it plays a part in it. It relates. Again, representation matters. So when I am out, when I'm at these, you know, schools in urban settings, and they see me, they may see or may not see the shirt, they just have somebody to say, okay, you know what, I'm not alone in this. Because a lot of times, as you know, with mental health, we feel like we're alone. Like nobody else is experiencing it, even though the person you probably talk to every day is experiencing this, you know, something similar.
Right.
So that's why it's important for me to wear this, because again, like you said, we have happy times. You know, I smile, I laugh. That's my whole life. But yeah, I woke up this morning, I wasn't feeling the best, and it's just like, all right, you know, let me take the medication, and then, all right, let me take a caffeine pill to you know, boost my energy a little bit, and so go on. But you know, it's something I deal with on a daily basis. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not ashamed of it. This is a part of who I am. I go to therapy. You know, I started therapy again for like the 3rd time. It's just funny. You know, I heard somebody say, you know, when you go to a restaurant and you have a bad meal, you know, like you may still go back to the restaurant. You know, just hopefully the meal is good. But with therapy, a lot of times people throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so that's what I did for the longest time. And so I've been going to a great therapist, and she's been helping me just process, you know, just who I am, process my emotions, and because despite me being successful, having multiple degrees, working in this profession, I was still, and it's continue to work on being just not embracing my emotions, even in the midst of me being open like this. And so because this is how I've been nurtured, this is how I've had to survive. And so survival, has trumped our wellness at times for a lot of people, especially in minority communities, impoverished communities and things like that, because we have to survive first, and then we can worry about the rest if we can. And so for me, it's just bringing it all together, and just working on feeling my way through life at this stage, instead of being an intellectual who I've been for however long, and now I'm trying to enjoy and be present more. And so, listen, it's a journey. Yeah. It's a journey. Yeah.
So I want to ask you about your depression and about your suicidality, but I want to ask you if you want to do that streaming still. Are you still good with that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then I'm just going to jump up again and look again and make sure we're still recording, because I always have nightmares about that.
I'm an open book.
Okay, so let's go back to that, because again, and if I don't, it doesn't matter what we look like, but I think if me and my silly, be the boys shirt and you and yours yesterday, with us both smiling and talking, I don't think that we'd be the two they'd pick out.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about your experience with depression and how it has played a role in your life.
It's played a huge part. It's played a huge part, both positive and negative. I'm here because of it. I don't know where I would be if I wasn't diagnosed with it. If it wasn't, I hate the word afflicted, because I'm big on the words that we use. I've heard it, even here. I've heard a lot of suffering, and it's just like, no, I'm not suffering. I'm living.
I live with it.
I'm living.
Managing it.
Exactly. As long as I'm moving day to, as long as I make it to the next day, I'm fine. I'm always going to be optimistic about it. It's been something, as far as I can, think back. It's back into early childhood. I saw my mom have a nervous breakdown. I tell the story, about it. It was in 8th grade, and she was screaming, pulling at her hair and things like that on my way to school. And hi, Mom, if you're watching, because she could very well be watching.
Hi, Mom. Sorry, but thank you.
I was in 8th grade. I was about 13 years of age, and I was always a quiet person. That was just me by nature. That's still who I am. And so I saw this, and I went to school, and for sure somebody said, "Hey, how are you?" I'm good. I'm okay.
Of course.
And then we continue on. I had no idea at that time, what I experienced was traumatic. It's funny, I brought it up to her when I first started telling the story, maybe about 1.5 years ago, and she was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "No, I remember this happening." And then she called me back a little later. She said, "I didn't know you remembered that." I was like, "Well, how could I not remember that?" But a lot of times when we experience traumatic things, people don't understand the impact it has on us unless we say it. And when we're children, and me working with children, I see it time and time again. It's either expressed behaviorally, 9 times out of 10 it will be expressed behaviorally. So for me, I became more introverted, more to myself, staying in my room. And for others, it may be acting out in anger and rage and other maladaptive behaviors. And so that impacted me in going into high school. My brother died when I was 17, and that was a traumatic experience. I didn't know how to cope with that, and so I had a lot of just pent-up anger and rage, because of the depression and anxiety from situational issues, but also from just the biological aspect of it. My grandmother apparently had mental health issues. She was going to throw my mom out the window of a moving car. And so, but her younger sister said, it was like 12 or 13, said, "No, I'll take her." But so these factors coupled together made me who I am. And so that's impacted me, not so much academically, because I always was able to be average. I'm sure it played a part in my college career, but so did, the other societal factors of like the culture shock going from the urban community to a suburb. So that all played a part. And then just in the process of just trying to understand who I am in this world, what's my place. And so it's impacted me employment-wise. I had to quit a job, a good city job. They always say back in the day, you want to get the good city job with the good benefits.
Oh, yeah.
And
exactly.
Yeah. And I was working as a child abuse investigator, and for 5 years, and I said, I can't do this anymore. Because I had my wellness was taking a toll. So I'm already in this place where I have the suicidality every day. Even though me being a therapist and me having this background, you know, a lot of times we neglect, like we don't attribute the information that we get to ourselves. And so, which is I'm working on, you know, that's the reason why I'm doing this. I'm trying to make, you know, sure that I'm learning from this as well, and I'm not just out here, you know, being intellectual about the topic, but I'm actually feeling the topic. And so, you know, that I forgot the fact that you can, you know, part of depression, anxiety, you may perseverate on a thought for a long period of time. And for me, it was literally from I woke up one day and the thought never left. The thought never left until I started taking medication 2 years ago. And so
Are you talking about the thought of suicide?
The thought of suicide.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the thought of suicide, 5 to 6 times a day at least. There's been times where
explain that to me. In what way? Just that you know you could, or you know you should, or a specific, I mean, what does that mean?
It means, as far as just the thought, I shouldn't be here, I don't want to be here, I'm over this, I just want to go, I want to die. Me sitting in my room, not leaving the room, not eating, you know, just a part of that, like the whole depression symptoms. Me being on the interstate, you know, I-90 from Philadelphia, so I-95 and I-76, where I'm crying profusely because I just want to crash my car, having to pull on the side of the road and use my support systems to potentially help me. So, you know, I don't know and I always say, I don't know what stopped me from crossing that line. You know, they say you have a daughter. Yeah, I have a 9-year-old daughter. I can't say she stopped me from crossing it. I have no idea what, but it did. Something did. Something stopped me. Something inside of me said, you know what, call somebody. And so, yeah, it was no way. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. You know, granted, you know, I had great times throughout. This is primarily in my 20s, but you know, that was a time that was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough, and it was as soon as I started taking the medication. You know, it takes some time to metabolize, but you know, within 2 months, it just disappeared. And then when it disappeared, I'm like, nah, what's this? And so I'm like, sometimes I sit and try to think like, okay, you know, I want to die, and it just goes away. And I'm like, just to see and it's just like it's. Again, I don't advocate one way or another for prescription meds. I know for me that's what I needed to help me with that.
Yep.
And so it was mind-boggling. I'm still baffled by it, you know.
But it's part of, in my mind, what lets us know it's a real illness, right? Because if it was just some weakness I have, taking a pill wouldn't change that, right?
Exactly.
So that's
exactly,
yeah.
and that's, you know, one of the things that, you know, I try to talk about, that it's not it's not a reflection of, I hate the term strong and weak.
Yeah.
It's not a reflection of your character.
Yes.
This is just something that happens. I tell people, you know, in my session later today, everybody's going to experience some form of depression at some point in your life. If you ever cared about anything and lost, you know, now granted it might not be clinical depression, it may be situational depression, so that's the loss of a boyfriend, a girlfriend. If you're used to getting A's and you get a B, but again, that's something that's not going to persist. But, you know, even when I say that, people are like, well, wow. You know, yeah, I had a situation, and they start remembering things. And I get that a lot when I'm speaking. People remembering different situations that they were in where, you know, they've had depressive-like symptoms, or could be classified as situational depression. And it just opens their eyes to it. You know, because a lot of times we think, not me, I can't ever feel this way.
Right.
I don't know how you do, I've never felt. Then they start looking back at, you know, at this, because a lot of us experience trauma. You know, it's a lot of unresolved trauma. And so I let people know that coping isn't enough. And so, because coping, I look at that as like a Band-Aid, right? So a part of coping, we need to heal. And so I made a post on my Instagram. It was like, you know, when we get in situations, we may get in an argument or what have you. I guess I have the coping skills for a 33-year-old, but that's not who's arguing with you. Who's arguing with you is the 10-year-old,
Interesting.
The 15-year-old, the one that hasn't gotten over the hurt and the pain at that time. And so that opens people's eyes, where it's like, you know what, yeah, we have to literally go back. And really, that's why I'm such an advocate of therapy. You can't live in this world. It's a tough place to live, you know, without talking to somebody, you know, about what's happening, whether good or bad, you know. So, yeah.
Oh, you're wonderful. I'm so glad that whatever kept you on this side kept you on this side.
Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm glad I don't know.
Well, it's a sense of value. Somewhere
Yeah.
deep inside you knew you mattered.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just, I was supposed to be here for this reason. It took me literally, 31 years to really realize what I'm supposed to be doing. And so, I have the degrees or what. I went and got a degree, and I haven't even used it, because it was, what I was called to do. I'm not the overly religious person.
No, I get it. I get it.
It's just like that sense of purpose. And
So support him so he can keep doing it, everybody. We can't do this for free. I mean, it's not even like we're trying to get rich. We're just trying to be able to fund what we're trying to do to help other people, and we just want to scream sometimes.
That's it.
Help him out. Go to that website. Yeah, awesome. So the T-shirts, what else? How else do you find funding for this?
You know what? It's more of it's a lot of cold calls. It's a lot of cold calls, a lot of emails, a lot of coming to events like this, and just trying to connect with people. I always encourage, like a lot of the places I've been, the colleges and universities and conferences, people just come and sit in and they say, "Oh wow, I like that. We want to bring you to Penn State. We want to bring you here and there." It's like, sure. I mean, outside of that, it's just. Yeah, it's just me, and I have no. I mean, as I get more sophisticated in this process, hopefully it's not just me, but it's just the message is just too. I would do it for free, but
he didn't mean that.
Exactly.
Not for long.
Yeah, 9-year-old daughter. Yeah,
exactly.
She eats unicorn sneakers.
That's so cute. The light up.
Yeah,
I remember.
exactly.
I remember. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I am very grateful to you.
Oh, thank
and
you.
I hope your session goes well, and I'm glad you are speaking out, and you have a unique perspective, but you also have a universal perspective, because as you say, we're all more alike than different.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
thank you.